I had to come out here and move Dad's car, and thought I'd make a little video more so for the family, because they'll know who I'm talking about, but I'm sure some of you might enjoy just hearing the story. But crack the window, it's hot in here, folks. That's better. I'd like to talk about a man that was very special to me in my childhood and in my life, and that was my Uncle Cloyd. Now, I loved all my aunts and uncles equally, but I'm sure if anybody asks you who was my favorite, it was Uncle Cloyd. Just a hillbilly up out of Kentucky. Come up out of Fox Holler, same as my mama. But he decided at an early age he'd take me under his wing and teach me all he knew about hunting. Now, this man was one hell of a hunter. And I don't mean he put on all the special paints and the special clothing and the spray thing. This is a different time, you know. He'd go hunting in a pair of blue jeans and a t-shirt and bring back whatever you wanted. And that's just how it was. I'd follow this man down a path in the woods, and I swear I'd only be like feet behind him, and somehow they would be spider webs that I would walk into. So he's just that kind of person. But he decided to take me in, show me how to hunt. He already knew I spent all my times in the wood and knew everything, you know, everything in the area, where to find it and what it was. So anyway, not to get sidetracked, it's always an adventure going hunting with Uncle Clyde. I remember how excited I'd be too for him to show up. You know, I never showed Dad anything. Oh, Uncle Clyde, big husky. Now I'd be like, hey, you MFer. He'd be like, what, you little MFer? You know, it's that kind of relationship. But always an adventure. And I remember I'd come in after school, and I'd eat. That evening, especially at squirrel hunting season, man, I'd take a rake and I'd head out in the woods and I'd clear us a path all the way to the sitting trees me and him was going to use for the squirrels was, just so we could go hunting that next morning when they were to school. Anyway, to continue on, you never know who was going to show up. Sometimes it would be my other uncle, Uncle Odell. Uncle Odell always liked to go hunt with us, but he'd never carry a gun. He'd carry him a can or two of Pabst Blue Ribbon, but he'd love to go hunting with us. I remember one time we was all out there hunting, and we jumped up a rabbit. Now, we were all spaced in different areas throughout the tree line because there was a dog running it. And I forget who eventually shot the rabbit, me or Uncle Clyde. But the thing was, is Odell hollered out at us, and we went over there where he was, and he said, look, I almost got the rabbit. And you could see in the snow track where the rabbit ran right next to him, and where Uncle Odell jumped and tried to grab the rabbit. And he honestly was just inches from catching him a rabbit by hand, which would have been totally awesome. I mean, that's a hunting story in itself. But had he pulled it off and been the one carried the rabbit out, with nothing but a beer can in his hand and us with guns. That would have been legendary right there. Sometimes I remember old Dude Johnson would come with him. Now you gotta know, dude, he was an old wino. Bless his heart. Probably been drinking all his whole life. I bet you he didn't weigh 95 pounds, and that's if you put rocks in his pockets. But, couldn't say worth a shit either. I remember one day me and Clyde was on down a ways from work. Dude had went and sit down to go hunting, and we heard him shoot. And we heard him shoot again. And after about the third shot, Clyde, my Uncle Cloyd, said, "Hey, why don't you go down there and see what he's shooting at?" That poor old damn fool's probably shooting at a gnat that he sees in his eyelash. So I eased down that way and called up the dude, and I said, "Dude, what are you doing?" He's like, "There's a squirrel up there, keeps sticking its head out." He said, "I've shot at it 2 or 3 times, I just can't hit it." I said, "Dude, you want me to get that squirrel for you?" And he said, "Yes." That popped his head out one more time. Needless to say, that dude got a squirrel. And they were just always good times with Uncle Clyde. You know, like I said, I remember we had took old button pockets off our jeans, old jeans that wore out, and we had sewed them to a belt. That way we'd keep our shells and baggies and other hunting supplies in there, and that was our hunting gear back then. Old pockets sewed onto an old belt clipped on. Trying to think of some other things, because there's just so many things with Clyde. I remember the day that we were back in there hunting, and we were separated. And I heard him shoot 3 times. Boom, boom, boom. Now, any hunter knows that that's the international sign of, SOS. I'm in trouble. And so I headed over that way. I hollered out for him 2 or 3 times, and I never got no response. So I just headed back in the direction that I'd heard the gunshot. And I couldn't see him nowhere, and he wasn't answering. And there weren't no tracks, so he hadn't come from where I was, so he actually had come from another direction, I reckon. And I finally found a spot on a tree, a fresh spot where he'd shot the bark off a tree with those 3 shots. And I followed that shot back, and there he lay in the snow, all huddled up, unable to move or talk. And I finally got him conscious and asked him if he wanted me to go get help, because we was pretty far back in the woods as far as on foot. I don't know if somebody could have got a car back in there or not, but there was areas and fields that could have got you close. But he refused it. He said no, he'd be okay, just let him get his breath, and we all walk out. And that's what we did. We walked on out of there. And it turns out later on that he ended up going to the hospital, and he'd had a heart attack back in there and fell over. And that's just what kind of grit this fella had. He got up and walked on up out of them woods and drove himself home. Now, people often told me, "Ain't you afraid that, he'll die or he'll be gone or he'll get out there and die on you?" It's like, nah. I said, Clyde ain't gonna die like that. I said, Clyde will die some odd place by himself. And, that's just how Clyde is. And sure enough, a few years later, a massive heart attack took him. And turned out he was at the dump getting rid of some garbage all by himself. And I guess overexerted himself and died in the trash yard. So that's just a couple stories of my Uncle Clyde and Uncle Odell and Old Man Dude. Some of the old hunting stories. Hope y'all liked it. Hope the family liked it. It's your people. It's your ancestors. Remember, you come from a long line of old hillbillies and clodhoppers. So, anyway, peace. Love y'all. Later.